Hi, and welcome back to the Flow Show. I'm Joanna Turner, Intuitive Business Mentor, and today we are going to talk about the Schumann Resonance and the Earth's geomagnetics. Now, this is a pretty big topic, and I am really excited to share what I know about it and why it is so important to have an understanding of this, specifically at this time and going into 2024. So, some of this might resonate, some of it might not. Take what you need from this and leave the rest, as always, with any of this spiritual stuff. You know you best, and whatever your truth is the most important thing. So, why do I follow the Schumann Resonance? So, if you know me at all from social media, Facebook, on my Instagram, I quite often will share images that I get from the Schumann Resonance app that I just get on my phone. And they are sort of a blue background, usually with either white or yellow or red markings across them, almost look like a graph, like a sort of seismic graph. And these big flashes of white light, or sometimes we get blackouts, can tell us a lot about the energy that is going on the planet at this time. And so sometimes if I am feeling something, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? I feel a big energy. I'll sometimes think, hang on a second. I look at my app and I can see a big flash of energy and I'm like, oh, that's what that was. Sometimes I've had a restless night and I couldn't sleep and I think, oh, what was that? And I check the thing and it's off the charts. So we'll get into it and I'll explain a bit more about this. So if you have had what we might call some ascension symptoms, they include tiredness, dizziness, feeling sort of ungrounded, anxious, even. Some people gain weight, they start hearing ringing in their ears. There are all sorts of things. So, if any of that is maybe happened to you and you really don't know why, there's really no explanation why some of these things might be happening, this might be the episode for you. So, I want you to think of the Schumann resonance, and it's spelled Schumann resonance. So it's got two N's at the end. I want you to think of it as the Earth's heartbeat or frequency. So, as I've mentioned before, we are all vibrational beings, and the Earth's vibration therefore affects all of us. And I first found out about it because this frequency peaked just before the World Trade Centers collapsed. So we collectively and as the planet knew something was coming. So if this peaked massively just before a big event, that's really interesting to me. So often you will hear people saying that your human body actually knows the answers to a question before our conscious mind knows. It's actually a survival instinct. You know, we know to get out of somewhere. We sense something's wrong. Maybe you're like, oh, I don't know about this. And your body wants to run before you even know that, consciously that you need to be running. So the earth has the same survival instinct and it knows too. And this is not just some spiritual mumbo jumbo. This is really where science and spirituality connect. And more, we are hearing more from the science community that they are backing up what we are feeling. And so for me, while I can trust myself and I know that there's been an energy surge or I haven't slept well or whatever is going on, I really like this because it gives me some validation to what's happening. And when I share it, I usually find that people go, oh my goodness, I needed to hear that today. That explains everything. And it can really be quite validating for what's going on in our bodies and in our lives, and as you will start to see, globally. So we know this as well because it is monitored by researchers at the Stanford University and others around the world. So they have all these different monitoring devices all over the world. They gather all this information and then they put it online and into these apps so as we can monitor it in real time, which is really quite fabulous. So in the past, and building up to today, the Earth's frequency that they have been monitoring has been fairly low, fairly consistent, no major fluctuations really. And it wasn't really something that most people gave any consideration to. We didn't really have to. It was just there, it was doing its thing. And so things felt steady, they felt safe for some people. And what we've noticed in the last, especially 10 to 15 years, it's been happening a bit longer, it has been slowly rising and speeding up. So you often hear people saying, doesn't it feel like time's moving faster? When I was a child, the summers seemed to be endless. Um, we feel like time is speeding up. You might have noticed the weeks seem to fly past. I'm like, where has this week even gone? It just seems to go really fast. And so there has been this speeding up and peaking of this energy, and it has been off the charts, unseen before. Energy spikes, the Schumann resonance measured in a frequency or a hertz has been off the charts. And for the last, months I have been, well, years that I've been following this, and I look at it really regularly. In the last couple of months, we've had some weird helix patterns showing up, and just things that we have never seen the likes of before, and you can really feel it. And these spikes are really starting to affect, like I said, our sleep, our blood pressure. It's also affecting the geophysical activity and our human consciousness, which is really the key thing that we are linking into this podcast. Now, the way I think of it is that we all store energy in our bodies, and we are all energy beings, and we store some lower frequency trapped emotions in our bodies. These are the type of things, I'm not going to call them negative emotions very on purpose, because all emotions, they're not negative or positive, they just are. They are something that need to be felt, moved through our bodies, and not pushed down and ignored. So these lower frequencies emotions that are trapped in our bodies, fear, sadness, grief, depression, anger, they can all exist in these lower earth frequencies. So they were just there, existing, perhaps being pushed down, but people weren't really taking, we could sort of mask well, we could, people would drink to push them down. Obviously, we then have the opioid crisis going on in the States, and there obviously drugs epidemics, all this kind of stuff. There were ways that people could manage the feelings, the sadness, the grief, the depression, and they existed at these lower earth frequencies, and that was okay. But with these earth frequencies spikes, it is effectively shaking out these old stored lower frequencies that can no longer exist at the higher frequency that the planet is moving into. So in a way, we are all, nobody is exempt from this, we are all being forced to evolve whether we like it or not. So as we feel like time is speeding up, and as we feel like we are maybe getting we're getting a cosmic upgrade to our DNA. Now, I know in some of the spiritual communities we sort of laugh or scoff. People are always talking about DNA upgrades, but this is real. This is really happening. So as we feel this, as the earth energy spikes, and we can no longer contain our sadness and grief, the old ways are no longer working, then we either have to find a way to work through those emotions, which is what a lot of the online spiritual community and in-person people help you do, work through your old emotions, traumas, all this kind of stuff. So if you don't have access to or an understanding that you maybe have things to work through, or that there is a community that can help you work through these things, people are really struggling at the moment. The depression numbers are off the charts. Suicide numbers are off the charts. People are unable to cope with these feelings when they come up because they've never learned how to process and feel their emotions, and they just are really struggling to cope. So this is a major problem worldwide. And obviously people are then looking more for answers. They're coming to spiritual teachers like myself and like many other people going, what the heck is going on? I need help. And that is okay. I have needed plenty of help myself. I've been really lucky in that I've had a solid 10 years, if not more like 15, to discover this stuff, to go through it, to release, to really prepare for this time for when lots of other people are needing support. And the crazy beautiful thing is I've sort of had this information revealed to me over this quite long length of time. But nowadays, with the speeding up of everything, people are having awakenings very quickly. They're moving through their stuff much faster. They're having all these realizations much faster. It's not going to take you 10 to 15 years to figure all this out. You are on an absolute speedy timeline to where you need to get. So don't think it's going to take you that long to figure stuff out. It really isn't. So you might have noticed on this global scale, this is why I believe we are seeing a lot of corruption being exposed, a lot of pedophiles being exposed, a lot of really dodgy stuff is coming to the light. And I don't think that any of this really dodgy stuff, the whether it's the war, the corruption, the twisted politicians, all that kind of stuff, it's all coming up because it can't hide in the shadows any longer. It literally cannot be hidden in this higher frequency stuff anymore. So all of this stuff is getting exposed. Obviously, we had the Me Too movement a few years ago where a lot of stuff came out. There's still stuff coming out. It feels like on a daily basis. So this stuff that might have gone hidden. Somebody might have been doing some of these things behind the scenes for decades. It's all coming to light now, and because where we are going, it might all seem like this is dreadful, and that this, how are we going to cope and survive this time when things are so terrible and the planet seems like it's in such a mess. But where we are going, that stuff isn't going to exist any longer. That is the beauty of this. It is coming up, it is coming out, it is being cleared, it is being ended, so we can move into this next era and into this much more beautiful golden age that people are calling it. So I really believe that we are moving into somewhere that is going to be heaven on earth. But we have to go through this time, this purge, this detox of the planet, getting rid of all of this stuff so as we can get to the other side. So this really, again, this cliched new earth that people talk about, this new earth really is being created in this beautiful higher frequency. So with all of this on this personal level, the emotions are coming up, the trauma's coming up, and these things will, no matter what happens, they will find a path to leave your body, whether you like it or not. Now, I believe that they will eventually erupt somehow, right? Whether it is through illness, arguments, you have challenging times in your life, in your body, but they will come to the surface to be seen and ultimately released somehow. Somehow they will come out. And what I love to do is try and face this stuff head on as much as humanly possible, and as I have over the last 10, 15 years, tried to face this stuff before it needed to come and smack me in the face, right? There is a benefit to doing this work. It doesn't always feel good or easy at the time, but eventually it's going to come out anyway, so you might as well deal with it sooner rather than later. That is that's my philosophy. So this stuff is coming out. And like I said, you might also, interestingly, we talked a little bit about these symptoms, the headaches, dizziness, feeling extra tired. It might seem like you have flu-like symptoms. And if you've been on the planet for the last 3 or 4 years, What else has flu-like symptoms, right? Swollen lymph nodes can happen. You might feel like you have more toxins moving around in your body. The toxins, I believe, are being mobilized through these frequency bursts, and they need to be released out of your body. So it's not fun, but we can be proactive. I'm always detoxing in some way or another to try and whatever is happening, it either makes whatever is being shaken up and whatever I'm working through, whatever I'm releasing, can be physically released from my body as well. And the other benefit to that is I'm creating space for the light that's wanting to come through to be able to come through and into my body. So it's a constant, and at the moment it feels like it's a constant cycle. Ridding my body of heavy metals, of parasites, of all the different things. I've been on a big detox journey, which I have shared in other places before, and I'll probably share more in the podcast. But it is a big part of this process. And if you're interested in detoxing, I'm going to be taking, I think, some people through a big detox in January with some really beautiful, gentle, but yet exceptionally powerful detox products as preparation for what is coming. So hang on to your hats and reach out if that's something that you're interested in joining us on. So yeah, we can really actively work on this and help ourselves transition through these times in as gentle way as possible. It's going to be hectic for people. It's going to be hard. It's going to be scary. And we can anchor ourselves in the best way. We can prepare ourselves in the best way. And then we can help other people as well. So naturally, when these frequencies come through, this higher frequency, you might naturally feel that you need to eat less. You might want to fast even. I'm a big fan of fasting, intermittent fasting. And if you are interested in doing that, I really love Dr. Mindy Pelz. She has a great YouTube channel, and she talks specifically, as well as fasting for everybody, but how to fast like a girl and in line with your cycle, with your monthly cycle. So women should not just intermittent fast daily without any we must give some recognition to our physical cycles and do it in line with that, and it can be very powerful, and that way we don't mess up our cycle at all with doing some fasting. So yeah, so there are some other things that can really help and support in your healing and in this process. Things like meditation, journaling, acupuncture, decluttering your home. As we detox and declutter our bodies, we sort of naturally feel like we want to declutter our space, and vice versa. You declutter at home and your body reflects that as well. So you might feel like you want to really, spring clean, get ready, get rid of things that you don't need. They're just weighing you down and holding you back. You might also want to stop watching the news and tuning in so much to the things we are being told in the mainstream media. I had, for many years, I didn't even own a television. I stopped watching the news. I've seen more of it lately, sort of accidentally, but I have seen a bit more news, and it is just awful. And it's really not helpful in our transition. I'm not saying that you ignore what's happening in the world. We're not spiritual bypassing. We're not ignoring, what's happening in the Middle East. But you can have an awareness of that stuff, and then you can go over the top. My dad, for instance, was obsessed with the war in Ukraine, still is. A lot of the world has sort of moved on to other issues to be consumed by. But he watches YouTube videos about it, and he's really consumed by the story. He feels part of it, and I'll often catch him watching a YouTube video crying, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's just so feels so much for these people, which is lovely, but at the same time there's a borderline of where it is healthy. And then even with the alternative news, which I am much more likely to consume, even that isn't necessarily healthy. I was definitely, during the last few years, I've consumed way more of that than I ever did before. I felt compelled to do that, and with a lot of, doing a lot of research and trying to figure out what I did believe and what was true and what wasn't true. But I've had to put a bit of a halt on that because, again, it wasn't really helping me get where I need to be. I dip in, I have a look, I go, okay, I have an idea of what's happening, but I'm not as consumed by it as I once was. So be very careful about what you are consuming, whether that is physically, from the news, what's around us. It's very, very important. So I'm not quite going to leave it there because I do want to also add that I was listening to one of my favourite astrologers, Pam Gregory, on YouTube. She's lovely, the most lovely, lovely lady. And she was talking about, she has a video specifically on the geomagnetics of the end of 2023 going into 24. And the astrology. So while the Schumann resonance has been spiking and I can monitor that and I can see that it's getting more and more intense, the astrology is lining up with it. And also the scientists who look at the solar weather and, look at the sort of solar flares and all that kind of stuff coming through are all in agreement that the next 3 years, very specifically 2024, are going to be highly charged and a lot of destabilization. So with the astrology, again, I'm not an astrologer. Pam Gregory is your girl, but the way she shares is just beautiful. I always come off, even if she's trying to tell us and warn us about something, I always feel this beautiful hope and calmness from her videos. She's just lovely. But the combination of these factors and the different ways that we are monitoring things are all coming together to really show us that the next 3 years are going to be quite volatile and quite different from the last 3 years. So the last 3 years, I think in Pam's words, she said felt very contracted. I would agree. I've been very insular and sort of small, I suppose, in my energy, more contracted, more introverted, more inward looking. And these next 4 years are going to be sort of very different energetically, much bigger, much more expansive, and but also kind of explosive. So whether it is more earthquakes, more storms, more floods, all that kind of stuff that we've seen increasing. Not that I believe all of that is strictly natural, let's say, but we will see more and more of that as we go through, and also instability within the electric grid. Potentially she linked it back to another time, I think it was in the 1850s or something like that, where their communication lines went down, and it's possible we will have the same thing happen in 2024. So it is something to be aware of, something to be prepared for, and something to, like I've said, prepare your body, prepare your mind, reconnect with your spiritual practices, and really come back to yourself to know that you can handle whatever is coming. We don't know. I'm not a fear mongerer, but I do like to be aware. I like to be prepared, because if something does happen, at least we know, we're like, this is the thing we have to get through, and then the beautiful golden age comes, So it's felt like, I think I would, if you might agree, that it feels like there's something coming, we're like, what is it? It's like, I feel like it's been coming for 3 years. I'm like, when is this thing happening? So we'll see. Maybe nothing will happen. Maybe it'll all be fine. Let's hope so. But I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. But we need to, I think the most important thing is, focusing on yourself, your energies, and in the words of my sister, control the controllables. You know, what can you control? You can control your own experience, you can control your own emotions, your health, your, you know, what you're consuming, all that sort of stuff. So be aware. And I don't know if people often ask me where I get the Schumann app. I don't know if it's still available. Quite often people can't find it. So yeah, if you're ever curious, you can drop me a message and I will check it and post it on my socials, because I quite often share there what the latest vibe is and what's happening. So I'll also link Dr. Mindy's channel, and also the beautiful Pam Gregory as well. I'll just see if I can find that video and link it specifically. So potent, so wonderful. And yeah, I hope that explains a little bit about what you've been going through and experiencing. And we will talk more about all of this stuff in different episodes. But I'll leave it there for now. All right. Take care. Speak soon. Bye.